time goes on, a lot of money being spent and no money being made.
I got big plans to set up a gold mine and run it my way.
For 5 straight seasons, Tony Beets mocked his son's obsession with science, calling his gadgets expensive toys. But on a Tuesday no one saw coming, one of those toys uncovered a secret that would detonate the Beets dynasty.
Based on what drill holes that Tony had and the little bit of poking around I did, between 15-20 feet of muck on top.
Kevin found what legends are made of, a secret tunnel, sealed for 100 years, containing a deposit of gold so pure it defied belief. The price tag? $85 million. This is the story of how Kevin didn't just find gold. He found a way to destroy his father's iron-clad grip on the Klondike once and for all. The seeds of betrayal.
It'll be interesting when we get to the top, see what everything looks like. I hope they realize just like through our absence how much we did on site.
Yeah.
The breaking point came on a frigid Monday. Tony's crew had just finished a 200-ounce weigh-in, a success by any measure. But Kevin saw the bigger picture, the one hidden from the naked eye. He approached Tony, armed with a fresh set of ground-penetrating radar scans. The scans showed a massive anomaly 200 feet below the current pay layer, a cold, dead space where there should have been solid bedrock. You see, the thing nobody tells you about permafrost is that it preserves history perfectly, and Kevin's data suggested something was perfectly preserved right under their feet. Tony didn't even look at the printouts. He wiped grease from his hands with a rag, his glare colder than the wind. "Pay dirt is in the ground, not on a piece of paper," he grunted, his voice a low rumble. "You and your college toys are wasting time. There is no easy score. Gold mining is hard work."
I expected the trommel to be further along. I think it's been almost 10 months since the trommel's run. And it's very frustrating with Tony. I don't think he quite realized how much of that me and Faith took on.
He clapped Kevin on the shoulder, a gesture that felt less like fatherly affection and more like a warning. Stop chasing ghosts. For Tony, the conversation was over. For Kevin, it was a declaration of war. That night, under the ghostly dance of the Aurora Borealis, Kevin made a vow. He wouldn't just prove his father wrong, he would use Tony's own blind spot to stage the biggest heist in Klondike history.
I'm sure you guys got it figured, but yeah, just keep it running. Well, don't shut down, because if we're going to hit 1,000 ounces, we got to really run pretty much nonstop.
What many overlooked was that Kevin wasn't just chasing a blip on a screen. He had been secretly cross-referencing his GPR data with 100-year-old territorial mining archives. These weren't just any records. They were dusty, forgotten claims from the original 1898 gold rush, filed by miners who had mysteriously vanished. One name kept appearing, a Norwegian prospector named Magnus Torvald, whose claim overlapped perfectly with Paradise Hill. Torvald's final entry spoke of a river of gold found deep in the earth before his funding was abruptly cut and he disappeared from history. This was no ghost. This was a breadcrumb trail, a trail that led directly to that cold, dead space on Kevin's radar. The most shocking fact is that the old-timers didn't have the technology to dig that deep. If Magnus Torvald had found a river of gold, he wouldn't have dug down to it. He would have tunneled in from the side. But he had to do it alone, away from his father's prying eyes.
3 miles from Tony's Indian River claim, eldest son Kevin is getting ready to mine his own ground.
Defying the Viking. The plan was borderline insane. Using the cover of running geological surveys on the far side of the claim, Kevin loaded a portable core drill and his most advanced scanning equipment onto an ATV. He was heading for the one area of Paradise Hill his father never bothered with, a steep wooded ridge on the eastern boundary, a place deemed worthless for surface mining. According to Kevin's topographical maps and the faint clues from Magnus Torvald's journal, if a horizontal tunnel existed, its entrance would be hidden somewhere on that ridge, buried by a century of rock slides and earth. For 3 nights, Kevin worked in near total darkness, the only sounds being the whine of his drill and the howl of the wind.
Hopefully it's a nice, boring night. We'll have a radio in the trailer, so if anything happens, just give us a call. We should be able to hear you, and yeah, anything up, let us know.
The work was brutal. He drilled dozens of test holes, sinking them deep into the frozen hillside, analyzing the core samples for any trace of disturbed earth. It was a 1 in a million shot. The data pointed to a specific 20 by 20 foot area, but 100 years of nature could hide anything. On the fourth night, it happened. The drill bit, after chewing through 30 feet of solid rock and frozen soil, suddenly plunged. It hit nothing. Air. Kevin felt a jolt of adrenaline so intense it almost knocked him over. He had found it. The real work began now. Using a small, remote-controlled rover equipped with a camera and thermal sensors, he fed it into the drill hole. The image that appeared on his tablet screen made his heart pound against his ribs. It was a tunnel. Not a natural cave, but a man-made passage with rotting timber supports still visible. The air inside was a consistent 34 degrees Fahrenheit, a sign that it was sealed off from the surface. But the most incredible detail came from the rover's spectrometer. The dust coating the floor wasn't just dust, it was laced with gold particles at a concentration he'd never seen before. More than 5 ounces per ton, just in the dust. The entrance had to be nearby. It took another full day of careful digging, but he finally found it, a collapsed shaft hidden behind a curtain of ancient roots. Prying away the rocks, Kevin squeezed into the darkness, armed with a high-powered headlamp and an emergency beacon his father thankfully knew nothing about. The air was stale, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, a faint metallic scent. As his light cut through the gloom, he saw it. The walls of the tunnel weren't rock. They were a thick, unbroken vein of white quartz, shot through with brilliant yellow ribbons of gold. It was the motherlode.
I gotta get the cut ready for sluicing. So I got up early to start loading trucks with overburden up in the cut. Going balls out to catch up with Mike and Monica.
A geological freak of nature that miners dream of but never find. He walked for what felt like miles, his light revealing a network of passages. In a large, cavernous chamber at the heart of the tunnel, he found Magnus Torvald's last camp. A rusted pickaxe, a leather-bound journal, and a small pile of nuggets, each the size of a fist. The journal's final pages, preserved by the cold, told the story. Torvald hadn't run out of money. His financial backer, a ruthless baron from Seattle, had tried to steal the claim. Torvald, fearing for his life, collapsed the entrance and fled, planning to return. He never made it. Kevin was standing in a perfectly preserved time capsule, a lost mine filled with a fortune. A quick conservative calculation based on the visible veins made him dizzy. This wasn't $1 million score, this was bigger. Much, much bigger. He had the proof, but now came the real danger: what to do with it. The king is shown the gold. Bringing this discovery to Tony was the single greatest risk of Kevin's life. It wasn't a simple, "I told you so." This was a fundamental challenge to Tony's entire identity as a miner. For this to work, Kevin couldn't come to him as a son seeking approval. He had to come as an equal, a partner with an asset so valuable it couldn't be ignored. He chose his moment carefully. At the end of a grueling week, when Tony was exhausted and complaining about diminishing returns from the main cut, Kevin walked into his office and placed a single 20-pound chunk of gold-laced quartz on his desk. The rock landed with a heavy thud that echoed in the silent room. It was unbelievably rich, with more visible gold than Tony had seen in a single piece in a decade. Tony stared at it, then at Kevin, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, his voice dangerously low. Kevin didn't flinch. "From your land, Dad. From the place you told me not to look." He then laid out everything: the radar images, Torvald's journal, and photos from inside the tunnel. He didn't present it as a theory, he presented it as a business proposition. You see, many people are crazy about Tony's explosive reactions, but what they don't see is the cold, calculating mind behind the bluster. He didn't yell, he didn't scream. He was silent for a full 10 minutes, studying the evidence, his mind racing, connecting the dots. He was looking at a treasure that dwarfed everything he had ever accomplished. But it was a treasure his son had found by defying him. The fury was there, simmering beneath the surface, but it was overshadowed by something far more powerful: greed. "This stays between us," Tony finally said, his voice a hoarse whisper. "No one. Not the crew, not your sister, no one." An unholy alliance was formed.
So all we need now is Kevin to get it together so he can start mining up where the old timers used to be, to see what he's going to get out of that.
Tony with his resources and heavy equipment to quietly reopen the tunnel, and Kevin with the knowledge of the mine's layout. The plan was simple: maintain the surface operation as a decoy while a skeleton crew sworn to secrecy began pulling riches from the secret mine. The first few days were a blur of frantic energy. They extracted more gold in 72 hours than the main operation produced in a month. But the thing nobody tells you about a secret worth millions is that it's almost impossible to keep. The Yukon is a small, insular community. Strange nighttime activity on the remote edge of the Beets claim didn't go unnoticed. The first sign of trouble was a drone, a high-end commercial model spotted hovering over the ridge at dusk. A few days later, one of their most trusted crew members was approached in town by a man in a suit, offering him $100,000 in cash for information on the Beets' new project. The enemy wasn't some rival local miner. This was corporate. Someone with deep pockets and sophisticated intelligence had caught the scent of their discovery. Their secret was out. The pressure was immense, and it was cracking the fragile alliance between father and son. Tony wanted to move faster, be more aggressive, rip the gold out before their claim was jumped.
So we're going to go over another 200 feet, poke another hole. Maybe we get that lucky again.
Kevin argued for a more strategic approach, mapping the entire network before they caused a catastrophic collapse. The tension was building into a silent, brutal war for control. Tony was about to learn that Kevin had inherited more than just his last name. The $85 million betrayal, the discovery that changed everything, came from Kevin, alone, deep within the tunnel network. While Tony was topside, barking orders and obsessing over the external threat from their corporate rival, Kevin pushed deeper into a section of the mine he hadn't revealed to his father. He had held one card back. According to Torvald's journal, the main quartz vein was just a tributary. The real prize was a massive geological vault, a natural cavern where millions of years of hydraulic pressure had deposited a colossal amount of placer gold. A room full of nuggets. Using a portable sonar mapper, Kevin found it. The vault was a breathtaking sight. A cavern the size of a small church, its floor a glittering carpet of gold nuggets, some as small as pebbles, others the size of potatoes. It was a king's ransom. Based on the depth and density, Kevin did a quick, frantic calculation. His initial estimates were wrong. This wasn't a $30 or $40 million find, it was closer to $85 million. And in that moment, a cold, hard certainty settled over him. He could not and would not share this. This was his discovery, his validation. Tony would see it only as his own conquest, a final trophy for his legendary career. He would take control, take the credit, and leave Kevin right back where he started, in his father's shadow. The corporate spies, the drones, the pressure, it all gave Kevin the perfect cover for his plan. He told Tony that their rivals were getting too close and that they needed to create a diversion. He proposed a bold, high-risk maneuver, set a series of small, controlled demolition charges at the tunnel's entrance. The blast would collapse the main shaft, making it look like a failed mining accident. It would throw their enemies off the scent, leading them to believe the secret project was a bust. They would lose access, he argued, but they'd be safe, and they could walk away with the $10 million in gold they'd already mined. To put it mildly, Tony was furious at the idea of leaving tens of millions in the ground. But he was also spooked. The corporate pressure was escalating, and the threat of losing his entire claim in a legal battle was very real. He saw Kevin's plan as a necessary sacrifice, a painful but smart retreat. He agreed. "You do it," Tony commanded. "You found the damn hole. You can be the one to close it." It was the worst mistake of his life. Kevin didn't just plan to collapse the entrance. He spent the next 48 hours executing a masterstroke of engineering and deception. He and a single loyal operator he paid handsomely for his silence used a small remote-controlled loader to haul tons of the richest pay dirt from the secret vault. Not out of the mine, but into a forgotten dead-end branch of the tunnel near the entrance. Then he set the charges. The main blast sealed the primary shaft just as planned. But a second, smaller, precisely placed charge did something else. It collapsed a different section of the tunnel, sealing off the now empty treasure vault forever, but leaving the massive stockpile of high-grade ore perfectly accessible from a secondary ventilation shaft Kevin had discovered just a day earlier. A shaft he conveniently never put on the maps he gave his father. As dust and smoke cleared, Kevin stood with Tony looking at the caved-in entrance. Tony saw a tomb for a lost fortune. Kevin saw a hidden doorway to his own empire. Was Kevin's move a cold-blooded betrayal or the ultimate act of proving his worth? Let us know your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more unbelievable stories.